Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the guardian of the blue paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, are the Flyers getting the best bang for their buck, or is buyout an option? Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc. Join Lance and Steel as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Inc. As always, I'm your host, Lance Green.
And I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers. And man, I'll tell you what, how you doing, buddy?
I'm all right. Just got back from the game against Detroit.
Oh, yeah,
so,
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
What they called a game anyway, so.
Ooh, yeah. You had to go there, didn't you? Right off. Mm-hmm. Thanks everybody for watching the Hockey Writers Inc. We would like to welcome you into the 64th episode. Holy smoke, 64. Will the Flyers, let me try that again here. Are the Flyers getting the best bang for their buck, or is buyout an option? That is the title for this week's show, episode number 64. Lance put out two great smoking articles once again for our feasting eyes to enjoy. And the first one here we're going to get into is exactly that. Are the Flyers getting the best bang for their buck? And you very deftly broke down the big major areas and the big major players in this. Okay. And we'll get to each one of these guys here individually, but I just wanted to kind of give a breakdown here. But you broke down Claude Giroux, Kevin Hayes, James Van Riemsdyk, and Ivan Provorov in regards to, are the Flyers getting the best bang for their buck here? Just released out on FlyersNittyGritty.com just the other day. Lance, another one out of the ballpark, brother. And the first one we're going to talk about is Claude Giroux. And let's hear it.
So, yeah, for sure. The idea, like you said, behind this article was to take a look at the Flyers' top paid players and compare them to the rest of the league to see if they are getting indeed the most bang for their buck. Now, with Claude Giroux being the best player, obviously he is still contributing at a ripe old age of 34, just winning the NHL All-Star Game MVP. So he can still get it done. Congrats to him.
Right. But I believe that was $1 million in a truck or something, right?
Yeah, SUV. I don't think he's going to replace the current ride that he has.
Isn't it a Rolls Royce or a Bentley or something?
I think it's a Bentley SUV. I don't think he's going to march around the area in a Honda Pilot after he has a Bentley, but we'll go from there.
Maybe the wife might.
Maybe give it away to his housekeeper or something or whatever. So let's talk about this. So Claude Giroux 8 seasons ago was signed to a $66.2 million contract with $9 million in signing bonuses. All right. At the time of signing, he was very well paid compared to the rest of the league some 8 seasons ago. Much deserved to that effect. But today, even so, he's 35th highest paid player in the league.
And so let me just cut you off right there real quick, because I want to ask you this quick question.
Right.
Do you feel that Giroux signing that contract for, do you think that was a good contract?
I may have went 5 years, I think.
A little less time?
A little less time, especially nowadays. A lot of players aren't really built like the players of old anymore, and gridiron, players that go out there and play with it. Wayne Simmons type injuries, and that you find out after the year is done.
Right.
That he has, all these
that
broken
happened way back in November.
Yeah,
he played the whole rest of the season. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So I just wanted to see, because when you look at Giroux from 8 years ago, I mean, he has consistently been one of the top point producing players in the league, almost since he's come into the league.
Yeah, he's obviously one of the most consistent players over the years. But compared to today's standards, He isn't paid top dollar anymore. Guys are making $10 to $12 million a season now when they're signing contracts.
Yep.
So obviously he's still the best Flyers player, but what kind of, for his pay, we'll just look at his pay compared to other players around the league that are getting that paid that same amount of money right now, and see his point production compared to them. And this season, when I wrote this article, he had 15 goals, 20 assists, and 35 points.
Giroux did.
Yes, Giroux did before the All-Star break. And you look at Tampa's Steven Stamkos, who gets paid $8.5 million, roughly just about the same, a little bit more, a couple $100,000 more than Claude. And he's got 2 Stanley Cups that he's brought to his team to justify getting paid that much. And this season, he has 20 goals, 32 assists for 52 points. Some amount different there. That's a good 15, 20 point difference over the course of this season. And also a player that gets paid that same amount of money, 8.5, just
in less games too. Stamkos has played less games because he missed.
For sure, he missed
injured. Some games already. Yeah.
Yep, he was injured. So another guy that is one of my favorite players in the league that's not a Flyer is Leon Draisaitl.
Oh, man, yeah.
He's 26. I guarantee he's going to get a much larger contract next time around. But getting paid $8.5 million under this contract, he's already won an Art Ross Trophy. He's already has a Ted Lindsay Award, and he's has a Hart Memorial Trophy as well. And he's
only 26.
And he's only 26, and he's well on his way to acquiring some more hardware this year. The Oilers are having some struggles, but he is not. He was really ramping up earlier on this season, but the team's not that great anymore. So those are the two big ones.
But he has become like, you can't mention the Edmonton Oilers now without talking about Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Like, you have to say Oilers, and then you have to say McDavid, and then you have to say Draisaitl.
I think they have to be mentioned.
Banners that are hanging from their building. What?
They have to be mentioned in the same sentence.
Exactly.
I don't think one's got something that the other doesn't besides Connor McDavid's speed. Draisaitl makes up for it with strength and power. And a net front presence there that can't be moved.
They both have great vision. They both have really deft hands. They both have really great hockey IQ. You know what I mean? So, hey,
right.
Mr. Draisaitl, would you like to come play in Philly? Yeah, whatever. Anyway.
I named another one, Sebastian Aho too, from Carolina, great player. But when looking at these type players, is Giroux in that same atmosphere? I don't think so. Maybe in the 2017-2018 season where he scored 102 points.
Yeah.
A great player, still contributing to this day. One of the most hard-fought players even last night against Detroit. He was back-checking and all this stuff.
Doing all the right things.
Doing all the right things. But for that amount of money to be given, it's just these type players are producing and offering a lot more to their team at this point.
Okay, well, let me ask you this other question here now as well, too. Okay, look, we've all talked about this and we all see the writing on the wall, and it all appears like that's what's going to end up happening, is that Giroux is probably more than likely anticipated, expected, whatever you want to call it, to not be with the Philadelphia Flyers come the trade deadline and or potentially sooner.
Right.
And to be honest with you, what if he doesn't go? What if he doesn't go? Okay. And now what? I mean, like we've all talked about it. We've all said, yeah, rip off the Band-Aid and blah, blah, blah. But let's look at the coin from the other side here and go, well, what if he doesn't leave? What if they do? What if he does take their offer and re-signs in Philadelphia? Now what?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very real possibility. Obviously, it would be best for the team at this point if he was to go somewhere and to try to
I
start
agree.
to rebuild. Yes, obviously. I think most people would. But in that same aspect, there is a human factor here. He does have a family. He can walk around Philadelphia and he doesn't pay for nothing, and he will for the rest of his life if he wants to stay in and around the area, like a lot of Flyers in the past have. This town, like I said, in these articles this week, is very well, takes care of their players very well. I mean, they remember for sure the history because they don't have anything to look forward to right now. They have to look back to.
Everybody says, look, I'm not trying to be rude here, okay, right. But there's one side of the state that is the city of champions, and then there's the other side of the state that not so much. Okay, I mean, the Steelers have 6 Super Bowls. The Penguins have 4 Stanley Cups, right? Now, back in the day, the Eagles, back in the the 40s and the 50s, they were championship caliber teams. But when you get into the Super Bowl era, they have 1, and then with the Flyers, they have 2 cups. So that's only 3 trophies compared to 10 out on the other side of the state. Yep. You know what I mean? So yeah. I can understand why. And, that was the same exact thing that happened in Pittsburgh, too, where a lot of the players would stay around, you know what I mean, because the team was very well liked. And the town around the Philadelphia is such a heart and soul town that if Giroux stayed here, I mean, yeah, that would be he would definitely be well taken care of. That's for sure.
For sure. For sure. I mean, and that's the human aspect of it, too.
Right.
I mean, he's been here. His family knows the area and is comfortable with the area. His son is still pretty young, but you got to think about where you're going to possibly send him, to school one day or preschool, and all that stuff. So there's a lot of aspects of it that are just comfortability factor that he could stay. And, I don't think, while people would probably be disappointed, I don't think anybody would really be mad at him for wanting to stay.
Right. You know what I mean? Because Jimmy even said it during the game. He's like, Giroux, if he decides he wants to stay and keep toppling records, hey, man, what? Can't fault the guy for that.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's a very real possibility. Right. So now we have to look at some other players that you mentioned. Look, we already know what's going on with Giroux, and he's gonna be the one.
Right.
That's gonna make the decision. He's gonna either
deciding factor there. Yeah.
Yeah. He's either gonna accept whatever offer they put on the table for him, and or they'll renegotiate it to where it's something that he is accepting, and or he's going to be traded. And that's just the way that is. So in this article, you mentioned somebody else, and that would be Kevin Hayes. And I'm with you on this, man. I have never liked this contract from start.
Right. Yeah. So, obviously Kevin Hayes came to us by way of a trade while he was an impending free agent, and they gave Winnipeg a 5th-round pick for him, for his rights to be able to sign him and negotiate a little earlier. And they did so, but they gave him a 7-year, $50 million contract that included $15 million in signing bonuses.
Oh, wow. I didn't know the signing bonus was that much. Holy moly.
So it's broke up throughout the course of the contract, but still, that forces the team to have to shell out $7.1 million. We'll round it off, $7.1 million a season for the duration of this 7-year contract. All right, that's a lot. That's a lot to eat, especially with him sitting up with me all this season in the press box.
I mean, all for but a handful of games.
Yes, very few games. While he is an impressive human at 6'5" and 216 pounds, I mean, obviously size and grit and toughness, he has it. But his health has been an issue. And
availability, man.
Availability. It looks nice on paper, but if you're not out there on the ice contributing, it has obviously led to a lot of Flyers losses, and not the only factor by any means, but definitely a contributing factor.
Yeah.
And when you look at all at all his stats and stuff over the time, on a cup contending team, let's face it, he's no more than a third line center.
At best.
At best.
At best.
He's a third line center. He'd be a very good, hardworking third line center for you if you were on a cup contending team. The Flyers are not, and they see him as a second line center and want him to be a second line center and has played him as such.
Paid him, yeah.
Paid him as such.
Played him and paid him as such, yeah.
So, but let's look at a guy, not a center, a wing, but who gets paid, I think, exactly the same salary as Kevin, and that is Winnipeg Jets star Kyle Connor. Now, he was at the All-Star game, and I think this is one of the most underrated players in the game today.
Oh, have to agree.
Would have to agree for sure. Let's face it, Kevin Hayes' Flyers records for his best as a Flyer is 23 goals, 18 assists, and 41 points that he had in 1920 season, his first year with the Flyers. Just ponder on this. At just the halfway point of this season, Connor already has 25 goals, 20 assists for 45 points in just 42 games played. That's besting every single one of those, stats, goals, assists, and points that Kevin Hayes had for the Flyers all season, for a complete season. And this is only halfway through the season, and this guy is getting paid the same amount as Kevin Hayes.
Good gravy. I mean, look, you don't have to convince me on this one, Lance. I'm so on the boat with this already. Look, the only reason Kevin Hayes was brought in was because he was an AV guy.
Yes.
And that was the only reason why he was brought in, and that was the only reason why he got paid so much fracking money.
Hey, I believe so. It hasn't been put out there officially that was the reason, but I really think AV had a stipulation, and as to when signing agreeing when to sign with the Flyers, he said, "You will go get me this player," and Chuck went out there and got him his player, and as he did with a lot of AV guys at the start of the season or this past off season, and we see how that worked out for the Flyers.
That qualifies as the wah wah wah.
Right.
All right. Well, moving on to another. I would have to say, was this the first contract, or was this the holdover from the Hextall era? And we're talking about JVR here, because this was a disgusting contract as well, too. What business is it of you to pay this guy this amount of money for somebody that only had 130 goals season once, and then has only been able to produce 20-ish since then?
So this was from the Hextall era. This was a Hextall signing. When I think he was getting a lot of pressure from management above him to say, hey, you need to work on not only drafting and developing guys, but you need to put a team out on the ice that the fans can watch, with the Flyers now, and so I think he went out there and he got, sadly, the best available player at that time.
Yep.
James Van Riemsdyk. James was drafted by the Flyers back in 2007, second overall. We all know that. He was later re-signed to this deal in 2018-2019 to a 5-year, $35 million deal. This included $5 million in signing bonuses, and it came with a $7 million cap hit that the Flyers are still having to shell out for him. Yes. So at the time, though, he's just coming off of a 36-goal season that he had with Toronto. So, hey, maybe Hextall was thinking this guy left the organization. He got better with another team. He figured out, how to be a better pro.
Let's
bring him back in and give this kid another chance. And we see where that has left us. Yeah. This season, before, like I said, when this article was written, right before the All-Star game, he in 45 games played this season, JVR has 11 goals, 7 assists for 18 points while being a minus 21. That is horrible, guys. A minus 21 player.
Wait. He has 18 points.
Yes. But he's a minus 21. Think of how many goals that is. While he's been out on the ice. That's a lot.
He hasn't missed much time either this year.
No, he's
played in every game, right?
Yeah, he's been pretty much healthy.
Yeah. All right, so let's see if I get this straight now. So we got Hayes, a guy we want on the ice who can stay healthy, who can at least produce maybe slightly better than JVR. Sure. And then we got this guy JVR who isn't really producing anything, but is healthy every night.
Well, is actually hurting the team.
That's what I mean.
Play. His inability to back check, his lack of skating ability at all, and speed. Like I said before, so many times he skates like he has cement blocks on his feet. And the big problem here is that he is very inconsistent, guys. Obviously, this guy has gone through, I think, points this season where he's scored 2 or 3 points in a night, and then non-existent, has no points in like 10 games straight this season.
Yeah.
You can't. Okay, maybe for a guy on the fourth line, that's pretty much heard of, but not a guy you're paying $7 million to a season to score. He was brought in to be a goal scorer, somebody to help out Couturier and Giroux and all this stuff, and he has lacked to do so to this point on a consistent basis. So taking a look at some guys around the league again who get paid similar money or exactly the same amount of money.
Do you have any idea how painful this was, Lance, to read this? I mean,
yes,
come
that's
on.
what I got from a lot. That's what I got from a lot of fans. There's a lot of truths in this article, but hard to swallow. Gosh. Sure. Yep.
The numbers don't lie, man. Let's hear them.
Poof. So let's go out to Colorado, where 29-year-old Gabriel Landonskog has the exact same cap hit right now.
Yeah.
This season, he has, before the All-Star break, he has 19 goals, 26 assists, and 45 points while being a plus 20 player. That's a big difference. That's a
180-degree difference.
Yes.
I mean, that's
fact checking, turning around 180 degrees and helping out in your own defensive zone.
And Landeskog is 29. He's got a lot of tread on his tires for being 29.
For sure.
And it's not like JVR is this 35-year-old granddad out there skating around either. You know what I mean? He's only 32?
Yeah. A year or two, a couple years older than Landonskog for sure. But definitely the over the course of that career, a big difference. So it's just amazing to me. And another guy out there that is younger, but gets paid, again, $7 million a season right now is 24-year-old Matthew Kachuk. And this guy is one of my favorite players in the league. Big, tenacious guy, just like his dad was. Really hungry and does anything he can to help his team win.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
This season, same point in time, he had 20 goals, 25 assists for 45 points and is a plus 24 player. Again, with that plus minus rating, yes, the Flyers are a bad team, but the reason for that is factors contributing would be players like James Van Riemsdyk that don't get back and do their job in the defensive zone. So,
gosh,
this is.
And it's not like Calgary is this.
No.
I mean, they came out of the gates really strong.
They're still missing pieces, yeah.
Yeah, they came out of the gate strong, but they have a pretty good team up there. But, they're still missing pieces too. But it's not like they're this massive team above the Flyers.
Powerhouse, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. So both of those guys, I mean, you just look, you're talking about 45 points for each of them compared to 18. That is a huge difference. That is at least a good and you think of win factors, that's at least, if you put all those points into JVR's column, that's going to win you at least 10 more games a season. I don't know. You know, if he's scoring that amount of points every night. So it's just, it's tough pill to swallow here. And, you know, we go on to Ivan Provorov of the defenseman, you know.
Gosh, man. You know, look, this is what I'm going to say about this. We've talked about this on numerous shows where the Flyers are not putting the players in a ways and means to be successful once they get to the big club. And I think that they stunt their growth in the lower leagues because they're just trying to win and they're not trying to develop. You know, that's big difference if you're trying to develop guys or if you're trying to win. You know, do you want to be known as the AHL team that has the best farm team because you develop all your guys and they all come out and play in the NHL? Or do you want to be known as, hey, man, these guys keep winning the Calder Cup?
Well, because they have a bunch of career AHLers on their roster that, you know, have been in the AHL for 10 years.
Exactly.
You know? I mean, that's fine. I wish I could play in the AHL and my knees weren't blown out. But, you know.
Exactly. You know,
but that's a great feat. But, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I think – and Provorov is just another fine example of a overused player, out of position, I believe. I think he is a top pairing defenseman, but he's not the number one.
He's a number two, yeah.
He's a number two top pairing defenseman. He should not be playing on the power play, okay? And the guy's got limitations. You need to have him with somebody that's not slow and, you know.
Not Justin Braun?
I was trying to not say any names, but if you really want me to go there, I'll say it. You know, you put some slow. You really want to talk about a guy with bricks on his skates? You put Justin Braun out there next to Ivan Provorov, and I'm guarantee you they're going to be minus for the night.
Yeah, which they are most nights now.
Right.
So, So Ivan Provorov, although like we just alluded to, is a very good defenseman. He's not a number one, but he's being paid as such. And, you know, he was the Flyers 2015 first-round pick in a lot of people's minds with the Flyers back end as it was at the time. He was instantly the Flyers' best defenseman as soon as he boarded the plane in Manitoba to come over from the Wheat Kings and the juniors to come over and join the Flyers. He didn't have to play any time in the AHL. He came straight to the Flyers and was successful. But is he worthy of the 6-year, $40.5 million contract that they paid him with $12 million in signing bonuses? I don't know. I don't think so. He's only 22 years old now. He's been in the league for a good amount of years, yes. But he's only 22 now, and he's already getting paid $6.75 million a season. Does that make sense?
So this is kind of where I'm thinking that maybe that this is what they were thinking, that if the tandem actually works out with Ellis and Ellis actually does become healthy and is able to play,
okay,
then it would work out. That would be a great tandem. That would be a great pairing, and that would help Provorov. He wouldn't have to play 26 minutes a night. He wouldn't have to be the guy on the power play. He would, you know what I mean? That the pressure would be off him, and so therefore, when the pressure comes off of him, he'll be a much better player. Because you can tell, man, you could just tell he is feeling the pressure every night to be out there, to be the man.
Now he's tired. He's tired. He's tired playing so many minutes, and just like all the other great Flyers defensemen before him, he has to because they won't get him any help.
Exactly.
They tried with Ryan Ellis, but he is what he is. Now I know where the Flyers are thinking when they signed him to this deal. They wanted to sign him to a long-term deal, and so they wouldn't have to redo this a couple of years from now. But in paying a guy that amount of money to be hopefully the guy to deserve it 2 or 3 years from now is just
Stupid.
Stupid. I didn't want to say it, but stupid in my mind.
Wasteful.
Because wasteful. You're eating up cap space that could have brought you in another piece to the puzzle and help along. Now you're, where's that in between contract? Where's that $3.5-4 million contract, $5 million even, I would say.
Bridge deal, we call them.
A bridge deal that, got him a 2 or 3 year time span to be that player to deserve this $6.75 million contract. Did he go out and win a Calder Trophy? No, he didn't, for being the, best rookie of the year, like, Cal did in Colorado. Did he go out and win a Norris Trophy? Does he have any Norris Trophies yet? No, he hasn't. Did he help the Flyers, to a Stanley Cup? No, he hasn't yet. So why is he being paid as such? I don't get it. It's just wasteful. If you look at his stats this season, he's not blowing, the doors off anybody at 5 goals, 12 assists, and 17 points, and he's a -6. So he's, like we said, he's being weighted down, if you want to call it that, by Justin Braun being, playing with him for most of the season.
Yeah.
But that's not getting the job done when you're supposed to be a number 1 defender and shut down the opposition.
Exactly.
And when you look at players who get paid this amount of money in the league, they're guys that have earned it for teams. You look at, Brent Seabrook. Brent Seabrook is not playing currently, but that's what he was getting paid. He was getting paid 6.8, right? That's $100,000 more. And what does he have? I mean, he has 3 Stanley Cups with Chicago.
1,100 games.
1,100 games, and will probably have Hall of Fame, honors soon enough. When he does officially retire, he's back up with injuries now, and he's just going to collect a paycheck. But he earned that right to be paid that much.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I don't think Provorov has necessarily earned that right.
No,
he stepped out onto the ice as a number 1 pick, or as a great first round pick,
lottery
or whatever.
Pick, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then they just said, "Well, here you go," and then his skill and talent has been able to see him to this point. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we're starting to see it get to, the kid's 22 years old and he looks like he's in his late 30s out there skating around some nights.
Yeah. Block shots, the amount of time on his legs. He's got to play power play. He's got to play penalty kill. He's got to do everything.
You can see the pressure on him. You can see it on him. I'm sorry, but you can't force that kind of a pressure like that. And that's the other thing too, especially like with Carter Hart. Carter Hart's the same age, 22, right? He's had all that pressure on him since he was 21. You got to come in and be the Flyers' best goalie, and that's just how it has to be. And he's done everything in his bloody power to do so. And I think Provorov has done the same thing. And when you look at guys like Seabrook and McDonough and some of these other players that are, older and or around the same age that are producing much more, they're not playing 26, 27 minutes a night. They're playing 18, 19, 20 minutes a night. You know what I mean? So,
but doing so effectively.
That's what I mean. They're using their time more wisely, and they're being more efficient with their players, and they're getting more bang for their buck. That's for sure.
So yeah, and that's just the conundrum there that the Flyers have been through this. Are they a destination where people want to come to? Is it a Tampa Bay where your family in mid-January can go swimming at the beach after the game? Yeah. No. Is it a happening night spot with clubs all hours of the night like LA or New York or Vegas? Not to that extent. Philly does have a nightlife and some good cuisine and all that stuff, but
okay. So I was just gonna say, I hope you say at least some. Philly does have some things.
Sure it does. Sure it does. It's maybe not to that extent where some of those other bigger cities that get more acclaim have. But let's be honest, they're not Minnesota that are setting record lows and stuff this time of year with snow up to your belly button and stuff like that.
Minus 67 degrees with the wind
Yeah.
chill.
Yep. So, yeah, they're not Arizona, who's going to be playing in a college stadium next year because they can't pay their bills. You know, so they shouldn't be that hard of a sell. My point is that they have to go out and overspend on their own players and players that they bring in, like, you know, Kevin Hayes.
They have, man.
They have.
That's what I'm saying. They have ever since.
Ever
since. That's been the mentality of the Flyers. Like even with Ed Snyder. I mean, look at how much money that they paid for Ilya Brizgalov.
Yeah.
I mean, look at to overspend for guys like that is not the best use of your money, because now you're extending your cap space out to fill up a roster full of guys that aren't going to be able to give you the stuff that you need, and then you're taking away money from things of players that you could be spending to get those kind of players to come in here and be those kinds of players. You know what I mean? So you're not putting out the right contracts with the right numbers, okay? And you're ballooning these contracts up to all these people that are so unworthy of it. It's like, you know, it doesn't matter what GM comes in here, they all seem to do the same thing.
Right.
I mean, am I wrong on that?
No, I don't think so. Not at all.
But we get these dumb contracts that constantly, you know, all we do is clamor about, look at all these dumb contracts. And then the new GM comes in and gets rid of all these dumb contracts and then turns around and puts even dumber contracts out on top of it.
Or bring one in, like an injured Brian Ellis.
Or whatever. I mean, come on. And now you want to make this guy be a part of the plans moving forward. Okay, so let's move on to the next great article that Mr. Lance put out, and this was put out on the Flyers Nitty Gritty website even a few more days ago, but still earlier this week. So that's 2 articles now from the great Lance in 1 week, and 1 game coverage too. So you have been quite busy, sir, haven't you?
I have.
And see, look, all this to bring you all this great Flyers coverage, man. How dedicated is that, right? Come on. I love this article because I think this could potentially be some options for the Flyers that might help them out. And we're talking about utilizing a buyout that could help expedite this rebuild. And we've already discussed a number of players that potentially on the Flyers could be bought out, maybe, right? Because we in the previous article, you talk about getting the best bang for their buck. Well, they're not necessarily getting the best bang for their buck for Hayes and JVR, and you know some and you know maybe those 2 players could be on the block. Maybe talk to me about what was the inspiration behind this article here. I mean, I get it, I understand, but just tell the folks what was the inspiration behind this.
Sure. Obviously, everybody says trade them. But beyond Giroux, I don't think there's that many valuable pieces that teams are just going to come clamoring about. Do I think a couple of guys else will get traded? Yeah, you know, maybe. For lesser pieces, but some may not. And like I wrote this article about, Van Riemsdyk is one of those guys because he has another year remaining. He's not a pending unrestricted free agent at the season's end that are going to get traded at the deadline. He's got 1 more year under his contract. And previously I wrote an article about potential trade for him with Arizona, which you can go back on.
We talked about the Phil Kessel,
Phil Kessel deal or whatever like that. But what if that doesn't happen and the Flyers are left to have to make some moves this offseason and don't have the capital to do it? A potential buyout for James Van Riemsdyk would not be ideal, but it is a real possibility. He does only have 1 year left, so potentially you would have to split that up into parts of 2 years to pay him, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But when looking at this, if Claude Giroux does move, the Flyers are going to have to find a big contributor to replace that player, obviously, right? And then even if he doesn't and wants to resign, there's not a whole lot of cap space out there to be had.
No, there ain't, especially
right?
with the signing of Sean Couturier's contract extension that hops in next year,
And Joel Farabee.
And Joel Farabee's contract extension that hops in next year.
Right. Both of those players, new deals combined, have a cap hit of $7.5 million. Now, Giroux is only 8.275, I think. So that eats up a lot of Giroux's contract already next season. And you're talking about having to re-sign some defensemen, a backup goaltender, pretty much the entire fourth line besides McEwen. So there's not going to be a whole lot of money or cap space in which to do so.
Yeah, exactly.
So in order to create some of that cap space to either re-sign Giroux or bring some other players back in to help this team next season, a buyout is potentially one of the best options if they can't get rid of players right and left. And when you break it down, 32-year-old James Van Riemsdyk has an initial cap hit of $7 million and a signing bonus of $1 million this season that would become irrelevant in the fact of this for the buyout purposes. Based on him being older than 26, the team would have to pay him 2/3 of his remaining salary, which would then be divided up over 2 seasons since he only has 1 year left.
Yeah, okay.
All right, stay with me here. It gets a little hairy. So this leaves him with a total buyout cost of roughly $2.6 million or $1.3 million per year that the Flyers would be on the hook for. A big difference. But which with the post buyout earning being factored in the first season, it would leave the Flyers with a $4.3 million cap hit for him instead of $7 million. All right, with all the stuff factored back in for the first year for next season if they were to buy him out this offseason.
And that counts against the cap. That
would count against the cap for next season. Instead of 7, it would be 4.3 next season, and it would only be 1.3 the season after.
Yeah, I know.
So it would then give the team next season a cap relief of $2.6 million. Now, obviously, that is not the most enticing numbers like you would want to hope for, but it is a pretty considerable.
That's a lot of garbage you have to shovel for a piddly little $2.6 million.
Yes.
And that $2.6 million really ain't going to buy you much.
It's not. It could buy you a decent top 4 or bottom pairing defenseman, whatever you want to look at it, to solidify that defense.
Okay, well that's
it could buy you a third line.
Yeah, I get you. I know. I get
winger
you.
Or something like that. No doubt. I'm not trying to over defend my point here, but it would be helpful. But I think what would be most helpful is his -21 plus-minus rating wouldn't be on the team anymore. You could get a defensively responsible person, and even if they didn't score as many points and be defensively sound, it would come out pretty much even in that aspect.
Here's my problem, though. Okay, and this has been the problem with the Flyers for a very long time. Why do the Flyers keep paying for players that aren't on the team?
Because they select the wrong ones in the first place to sign or trade for.
So look, I'm not just trying to be rude or anything, but can we waive JVR?
You could. Nobody would pick them up. And then you're going to be sitting there eating a whole bunch of salary, and you would still, I think, have a certain, I would have to really look into it, his numbers wise, but it just wouldn't be a good idea.
Wouldn't be a good idea to waive him.
If you wanted to, if you absolutely had to,
for him.
but it's Yeah, it's difficult. It's so difficult, and for him to sit down and the AHL and get paid $7 million to sit down there or whatever, it's just yeah, you would hope somebody would pick him up, but who the heck's got $7 million laying around just to give a player like that?
And I don't think we're going to find any dance partners either to try to trade him to either. I mean, like we talked about the whole, hey, yeah, maybe we could get him, trade him for Phil Kessel for the Arizona, because it's the same money. But Phil Kessel's contract is up after this year, and we wouldn't have to worry about it in the future. But I'm here to tell you, Arizona ain't looking to do that swap, not to then now continue to eat another salary like that for another year. Okay. Right. And then they already have a hard time paying people,
Well, that's the thing. It would then give Phil Kessel's already said he wants to be out the door. He doesn't want, he wants to be on a contender. He wants another shot at the cup. He doesn't want to have to play for Arizona anymore and have no help. It would give Arizona a year of a, guy who scored 30 plus goals. Yeah, a marquee player for them, considering they're going to play in a 5,000 seat arena next year and they can't pay their bills. So, hey, this guy would be forced to have to play for us for next year while we get our stuff, or try to get our stuff together. And they're not going to do that even swap for nothing. You're going to have to send a pretty decent pick along the way, just like they did when they ate Gostisbehere's contract.
Yeah, that was
for nothing, but we had to send picks.
Just keep giving them stuff. It's
right.
Like, really?
They're going to take on bad players, and Ghost has a bunch of points there, but they also have a lot of losses too.
And they have nobody else.
They have nobody else, and they have no wins either. So,
Now, I mean, some of the other things that you mentioned in the article, Andre Palat was a player, and Johnny Gaudreau. Look, it's very well known that Johnny Gaudreau would like to play in Philadelphia. Right. The problem is that Philadelphia is in no way, shape, form to offer him any kind of worthy money contract or anything for him to even consider to come here. And there's no way on this rock that you're going to be able to get a trade with JVR and Johnny Gaudreau and a first-round draft pick or whatever you have to send to Calgary. That ain't going to happen either, as far as I'm concerned, because now you're trying to dump JVR's salary onto Calgary, and
you would need to sign him as a free agent, unrestricted free agent at year's end. But that's the thing. They're trending way down. Who as a big name free agent is going to want to come leave their team like Johnny Gaudreau, who's potentially going to be in the playoffs and has some pretty amazing teammates to play with, but are just a couple of pieces away, to come to Philadelphia, who is a dumpster fire
and much further away.
Much further away from actually contention. So that is the deal here. That's the reality of it all. So
I don't think we're going to be able to get. I don't think the Flyers are going to be able to get anybody with the likes of Gaudreau or Palat or anything, or anybody for that matter. I mean, Cam Atkinson said that he loves being a Flyer and everything like that because he's been here now and he understands and all other stuff, but it's going to be a tough sell. It's really going to be a tough sell, especially with management the way it is and ownership the way it is and coaching the way it is and lack thereof and lack of development, lack of, whatever you want to call it. So I don't know, man.
I think it's going to be rebuilding, and for sure. And I'm actually working on a piece to bring
He's already getting ahead of me.
Yep, already getting ahead of you. To look at a couple of impending free agents who the team could sign that are very underrated and stuff like that. And it's going to be trying to find that diamond in the rough and piece a patchwork team together for the next few seasons that can still be competitive, but while you're rebuilding.
Yeah, because you're going to have to do something because the stands are rather empty. So.
Desolate, yes. Tumbleweeds blowing through.
Tumbleweeds, yeah, man, that was not good. So, Lance, thanks for the great update on your latest piece. You wrote 2 great pieces this week that we got to cover as well, too. So, look, we're not all doom and gloom. We feel that there is a way out of it, but they need to listen to the show. So, why don't you tell the folks, Lance, where we can get you, where we can find all your great articles, and how we can follow you?
Yeah, as always, I'm on Twitter at LNGBASSIST, the numbers 39. All my articles are on Flyers Nitty Gritty, SteelFlyers.com. The show can be found on YouTube and any of your other audio platforms that you want to listen to. They're on absolutely every one of them. So tell a friend, please. And Danny Briere, I'm only a couple seats down from you in the next box over. If you want to bounce off some ideas together, come on over. And
we'd be glad to have you.
Right. So.
Well, that's great, man. Thank you very much, Lance, for 2 great articles. Looking forward to some new articles coming out here from you as well, too. You can also find Lance on Bleacher Reports, too, because most of all of his articles get posted out there as well, too. So check Lance out on Bleacher Reports. You'll be able to find him there in the Philadelphia Flyers section as well, too. Big thanks to Flyers Nitty Gritty. .com for all your support. Really appreciate that. Appreciate all the help that you do, and appreciate that. Thanks, Lance, for all that you do, all the great articles that you put out there. You can find us on Steel Flyers at www.steelflyers.com/link/Hockey Writers Inc. This is episode number 64. I'm your co-host, Steel Flyers. You can find me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. Thank you guys for watching. We'll check you on the next episode of the Hockey Writers Inc.
See you guys.